Do you ever wonder how you can get yourself unstuck from the same old patterns that are happening in your life where you're struggling with the same sort of difficulties over and over again? Well, you're not alone in that. I'm Dr. Matthew Thornton. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a licensed professional counselor. And I want to teach you strategies and techniques so that you can get unstuck and get moving in a direction that you want to be moving for your life and in your relationships. Now, today we're going to be talking about a technique called the miracle question. Now, I know what you're saying, Matt. You talk in every one of your videos about how it's not going to be magic. And it's not magic, but I want to teach you this technique. It actually comes from an approach called solution focused therapy. And I'm a fan of this particular approach. I think it's got a lot of good value for every person to be able to know this approach and be able to apply it to their lives. I've also seen it applied in business as well. Looking at consultants working from a solution focused therapy approach and helping businesses get over humps and that sort of thing. So it's a widely used approach, but I want to teach you the miracle question. And so let's just jump off into it. Suppose you've got a particular issue, and it can be a wide range of issues from anxiety. Maybe you're feeling sad or depressed. Maybe you've got struggles in a particular relationship or with your child, and you're stuck in that same sort of pattern. Every day looks the same for you. And so what I want you to do is kind of a mental exercise with me. Take a deep breath. I'll do the same. And think about, what if you went to sleep tonight? And in the middle of the night, while you were asleep, a miracle happened. And this problem that you've been dealing with and struggling with was solved. Now, you didn't know it exactly when it happened, but you wake up the next morning. What's going to be the first thing that's going to let you know that the problem was solved, that things are different? What's going to be the things that you notice? And that could be as simple as just how you wake up in the morning. That could be something that you notice in someone else and how they're responding or how they're treating you. That could be something in your surroundings. I'm going to ask you to look at very small things and the details of what's going to be different. How's that day going to go for you that it's different now that the problem is solved? And so that's sort of the start of the miracle question, where you just are envisioning waking up in the morning with the problem having been solved. Now, the beauty of the miracle question is not the question itself. It's that it focuses our mind on the small details of things that may have changed because the problem is no longer a problem or the problem has been solved. And oftentimes those little details are big things for us. So what I would ask you to do is, once you start to identify what those small things are, and just a handful of them would work, things that you would notice about the relationship you had with your spouse or with your children, or the way in which you approach work, or even kind of how you carry yourself sometimes may be different because of this problem no longer being a problem. But we can implement some strategies to try to change those small things that you would notice. And here's the thing about change. We learned this in session 1. I've talked about it in other sessions as well, is change in any one area of your life is going to create ripples in the rest of your life. Everything will have to adapt. And so if you can focus on the small thing that's going to change, then something else is going to have to adapt to that little change. So change can actually snowball for you. And I think that's something that's very cool. We oftentimes try to shoot for the moon. We want the problem to just go away. We want everything to be right. And we oftentimes miss the little small changes that we need to be focused on in our lives to actually help give us the momentum to get big change to happen. And so the miracle question, while it takes into account this problem being solved, is really about those follow-up questions where you're starting to dig into the details of the differences that you will notice. So let's take an example here. Say, for instance, the problem is you have such anxiety about work, maybe conflict with your boss, those kinds of things. And so the thing that we would ask is like, what would you notice first about that morning? And it may just be, I don't feel the same sort of stress when I first wake up in the morning. And so my follow-up question would be, well, what would you do differently if you didn't feel that stress when you woke up? Well, I probably would spend some time quietly meditating or in prayer. I wouldn't feel as sort of stressed and be worrying about what's going to happen when I get to work. I would take some time. I might have a cup of coffee at home, and be able to take the time to enjoy that cup of coffee. I would do that kind of thing in the morning if I wasn't wringing my hands worrying about what was going to happen when I got to work with my boss. Then I'd say, what would be the first thing that you would notice when you got to work? What would be different there? Well, I would probably be smiling. That would be different because I would be excited to be there. And so that might be something that would be different. And so right there, we've identified two different things that would be different on that morning. One is there would be a little bit more ease getting into the day where you're doing some prayer or meditation, maybe enjoying a cup of coffee. And that may be very different than what you do right now in terms of starting your day. The second thing is when you enter work, you might have a smile on your face. And you never know what that's going to do in terms of changing the dynamics in a relationship. When someone walks in the room and there's a smile on their face and a more positive energy, everybody else has to adapt to that. Now, sometimes people are like grumpy and they just move away from it. But oftentimes, smiles are infectious. It changes the dynamic in a room. And so focusing on those two small changes for you, it's not going to cure your conflict with your boss or the stress that you have with your work in total, but it may be the starting blocks for you to start to see some difference happen. And one of the things I love about this particular approach in solution-focused therapy is that the solutions don't often have to be exactly focused on the problem. They can be solutions in other areas of your life that just ripple through the rest of your life as well. So I hope this example has been helpful to you. If you're interested in this particular approach, maybe you're a mental health counselor and you want to know more about solution-focused therapy, is a model developed by Steve Shazer in Insoo Berg, and there's great resources out there. There's actually a Solution-Focused Therapy Association. You can find resources and research. It's been applied across the globe in a bunch of different settings. I really would encourage you to take a look at it. It's a great model to work from. If you're someone that's struggling with a mental health concern, I would urge you to reach out to a counselor. Oftentimes we struggle in isolation and we just stay stuck in our lives and we feel like things can't change or they won't ever change or the problems just seem too big. A counselor can help walk you through a process like I did today where we're focusing on the small incremental changes that need to happen in your life. And they can tailor that specifically to the problems that you're dealing with and the struggles that you have. So if you are having a mental health issue or a difficulty, please reach out to a counselor. We know counseling works, but it takes you reaching out and saying, hey, I need some help. So I hope this information has been helpful to you. Again, I'm Dr. Matthew Thornton. Now go out and make a difference in your life.